A lot of people posting remembrances of Chester Bennington today on social media. He died 5 years ago today. Seems longer than that for some reason. I don't know why. Our own Corey Roddick is always good for a deep dive into all things Chester and Linkin Park. And I remember
This one was
Chester Bennington. Yeah, I think so. This was only a couple of months after Chris Cornell had died. Yeah. And there was a little bit of a generational split because Chris Cornell was the one that stabbed me in the heart. Mm-hmm. But people a little bit younger than me, you guys, it was Chester Bennington.
I mean,
because the two of them were so close, everybody was all kind of mourning collectively over those months.
I mean, Soundgarden's one of the bands that got me into harder rock. Like that album that had Black Hole Sun on it. Like I listened
Super Unknown,
yeah. That listened to that a ton. And then Linkin Park was just on constantly from the time they came out.
Linkin Park was one of those bands that, for whatever reason, they couldn't make it happen for a while, and they just had a couple of people that came to their assistance in the music industry who believed in that band, and they just exploded. I had dinner with Chester way back in the day. Linkin Park, I don't even know if they had blown up yet. I think maybe they were just starting to. It was him and Sam, who was his first wife. And a bunch of us were in New York, and it was me and a couple of like record dudes, and it was Chester and his wife. And it was the only interaction I ever had with him. In the years after that, I never did like I never did an event or anything that involved Chester Bennington, but I just had that one dinner with him. This probably would have been like 01, 02. And he just couldn't have been nicer. I mean, you could tell he was a guy that was, and he would be very candid about kind of his life and things like that. And he was clearly a very shy guy. But it was also, you got a sense that like, man, I hope nothing happens to this guy. Because nobody knew how big Linkin Park was going to get. But they did, and then the wife that I met, they got divorced. I think he got married again. I mean, he had a few wives and a handful of kids, but he couldn't have been nicer. But we were on our way up to northern Michigan when he died. We had just come back from getting some snacks, and whatever the local radio station was had announced that Chester Bennington had been found dead. And again, he and Chris Cornell were so close that some people had initially speculated, because today was also Chris Cornell's birthday. Chris Cornell, I think, would have been 57 today, 59. So in the immediate news of Chester Bennington's suicide, there were people who had theorized that maybe he had just taken the whole Chris Cornell thing too hard. And obviously there's no way to clarify that. I think it might have just been more coincidental than anything else, but who knows? I don't know. But for two specific generations of music fans, between Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington, both kind of dying under similar-ish circumstances, that was a really, really bad 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
Chris Cornell would have been 58 today. But it seems, and I don't know for whatever reason, it seems longer for both of those guys. It seems like both of them have been gone longer than 5 years. But you'll see a lot of people, posting. Linkin Park was a band that I saw on a number of occasions. Never saw them do a bad show. I'm sure they had off nights like anybody else, but that was a band that I never once saw do a bad show.
Not a bad time to mention that there's a new number for the suicide hotline, 988.
Yeah.
That's the suicide prevention hotline?
Yeah.
988.
Yep.
I don't know why they came out with a song, that guy Logic, and it was like 1-800, like the title of the song was like a 1-800 number, and that was the suicide prevention hotline.
Yeah, they shortened it just to make it easier for people to remember. Yeah.
Good.
Well, yeah, because for a while, everybody had to remember that number. And we mentioned it a couple of weeks ago that they were going to switch as of maybe yesterday or today. They were going to switch it, but it had been 800-273-8255, I think is what it was, right?
That's 1-800-GULCH, I believe.
1-800-GULCH.
Have you ever contemplated suicide, Alan?
No.
Never ever?
Nope.
Good for you.
Well, I don't know if it's good for me. I consider myself maybe more fortunate than it's not like I didn't have reasons along
I'm sure
the way.
Everybody thinks they have reasons to. That's why they
but some people. But that's what I mean. I think you're fortunate maybe if you haven't, because I certainly don't think it's anything different that I did, or I know I'm wired a lot differently than some other people too, much to their chagrin. But no, I that's why I had no. You know, when my girlfriend in college killed herself, in the aftermath of that, when her parents thought that I had been exerting some kind of influence on her, and that was an extraordinarily difficult time. But it was also a matter of that I couldn't, for other people in that situation, I just couldn't identify with that. I couldn't identify with going that far. So I would have been utterly useless in trying to...
See, yeah, I mean, my whole situation was just as a teenager, just having so many questions and not enough answers. I couldn't understand it. Not that I thought being gay was wrong and I would go to hell, or like my mom would like disown me or anything like that. I knew that that's not what I was worried about. I just couldn't understand why. Like, I thought at that point in my life I had done. I mean, I was an okay person. Like, I didn't think I was doing anything bad to deserve to be gay or ridiculed, like, because I knew the moment I came out, my life would be significantly harder, like, no matter what. Just because you have I guess you could call it a preference, but I don't feel it's a preference. I like guys. But just because you say that is what you're into, immediately everything gets harder. And I just didn't want that. I didn't feel like I deserved to have that burden. I was like, I'm just normal. And so that was like the only time I ever contemplated, because I'm like, I don't need this. That's why I refuse to believe that gay is a choice. Well, like the transgender thing, people who coming out as bi or gay, no one would want to make their life harder. So that's just where I'm at with it. And I just was so mad about it.
But that also comes from those suicidal thoughts or whatever. That all comes from external forces. It comes from other people.
Well, that's exactly.
It wasn't though. It was me.
There's no. What I'm saying is though, there's no one who internally. You wouldn't internally say, "How am I going to make my way in the world being like this?" If it weren't for all the things you saw externally of people being treated awfully, or being discriminated against, or so it's all external forces. You know, it's these little kids, just these heartbreaking stories you read about, like a 10-year-old who hung himself in his closet because kids were bullying him on TikTok or something like that. It's like it's all external forces that will push you to that point.
When I was at my lowest, it was because I was doing everything that I was told that I should be doing to be happy and be a good Mormon, Christian, whatever it was.
And you weren't happy.
I was the most miserable that I had ever been. And it was devastating to think that everything that I was taught and told would make me happy pushed me further into a depression. So,
especially since their response to getting you out of that was probably more of that.
Yeah, but then but at least I was myself by then. So then it was, I mean, there was a couple years where I was back, and it's not like I'd made one clean break with the Mormon church.
Yeah.
It took a couple years. But the further, and this is what I noticed, the further I got away from it, the happier I was. And the dread and the just complete... I don't even know what the word is.
It was like a weight lifted off your shoulders.
But like going to church and knowing I don't want to be there. Didn't believe it. And there were good principles that I was taught, but the rest of it didn't vibe with who I was. It just made me feel terrible, and that I felt like I was some garbage person that didn't work, like I didn't have the right brain or right soul or something like that. Like I thought I was an evil person. And so when I started just tearing away at that and seeing who I really was, I felt a lot better, and getting to a place where I could be myself and have my own moral compass, and it's not based on some teachings out of a book that really is just for profit.
I mean, Alan, to your point, you said external forces drove me to the point of where I would want to commit suicide. It was actually external forces that actually made me not do it. I mean, like,
well, that's good.
I was thinking, I mean...
I think you already had a leg up by knowing that your family wasn't going to disown you.
And that's what it was. My mom, I couldn't do that because I know that she wouldn't care. She would love me no matter what. If it were up to her, as you guys know, I could live in the basement for the rest of my life as long as she's alive, and she would be fine with that.
Do a podcast with her and make her do impressions of you all the time.
And so I was like, I couldn't do that. If I commit suicide, like I don't know that she could survive. So I literally died twice. I killed myself and I killed my mom. So that drove me out of it. I was like, I think people who are on that edge, all they need is one person to like pull them out. And for me, that was my mom.
Yeah, I tried with my girlfriend, and I didn't know that it was going to come to what it came to. But didn't work that way for me.
Mom, nobody wants to see Derek Cuff. We'll get the tickets.
I lived to hurt her feelings and not get her Derek Cuff.
Right.
Tickets.
Right. You stayed alive so that you could break her heart in other ways.
I robbed her of that.
Yeah, well, that's all right. You're still around.
The monkey isn't, though.
Oh, the TikTok monkey.
George the TikTok
monkey. Yeah, well.
Tell your mom not to see you. Nope.
She hasn't found anything she hasn't found anything to take its place?
No, actually,
TikTok, another animal she can contribute to.
Well, no, George actually has a sibling, but she criticizes that monkey. Like she's like he does, or she doesn't have the charisma that George has. Like she's like, I don't watch her. Like she's trying to be in the spotlight now that her brother's dead. She doesn't have the same charisma. George will open up those gifts, and you would think he was the happiest little monkey in the world. This thing, whatever it is, I'm like, Mom, are you really going in on a chimp right now? She's like, she's not the same as George.
Yeah, but also she never wanted that life. George wanted the showbiz life. It's only in his absence that the family goes, we can't stop this freight train of people sending us money for this dopey monkey.
Yeah.
They just shoved the sibling monkey in there. She didn't want that life. So she wanted a life of quiet contemplation.
Yeah, well, my mom doesn't watch anymore, so no, she has not found anyone to fill that void because the sister monkey, she's like, I'm not sending you nothing. I'm not sending you not a ball, nothing.
Yeah, there's a scene in Nope that would really upset your mom.
Probably.
Well, he was like a littler monkey, though. He wasn't like a chimpanzee.
Even worse. Those are the cute ones.
Well, this was like a
macaque.
This is in Nope, there's a chimpanzee. That's
the smaller the monkey, the cuter it is.
Yeah, it's not
the smaller the anything, the cuter it is.
Say,
even penises.
That's old timey thinking right there.
Yeah, right. Yeah. All those statues. Mm-hmm. You don't want to be ostentatious about it. Alan, you mean the suicide hotline number isn't 1-900-MIX-A-LOT? Does 1-900-MIX-A-LOT work? I wonder if he ever had the foresight to register that before that song got big. You don't know if the song's going to blow up, but 1-900-MIX-A-LOT. So you saved your mother from mourning a dead son by staying alive.
Well,
But there's probably a small part of you that resents that influence and takes it out on her. Very passive-aggressive.
How dare you not allow me to take my own life?
Passive-aggressive ways. Well, the only real
How dare
choice...
you love and accept me.
That's right. The only real choice that anybody has over their own lives is to end it. It's the only real choice a human has.
I suppose. No, I just try not to think about that. I mean, I try not to even think about that as an option because some people will like, that's a last resort. Like, that's not even like a last resort.
If you cut your life into pieces, from what I heard, that's going to be your last resort.
Okay.
Yes, it is by definition a last resort. Yes.
Yeah, but I don't even.
People give you
that.
their little pearls of wisdom.
Yeah, he's saying it. He was not even giving himself that out.
Mm-hmm.
Says,
yeah, I didn't.
No, you got to churn through all this stuff.
I'm just saying. I didn't bring myself into this world. I don't think I have a right to take myself out. There are times that I want to because I just. Again, even in my adult life, as a teenager, I was like, oh, I'm never going to figure this stuff out. Now, I'm damn near 30 in a couple months, and I'm like, wow, I'm still never going to figure this stuff out. I have a lot of questions, not a lot of answers.
You're still young.
I still don't know about, like, gay. Like, I feel like I'm not, I know that I'm gay, but, like, I don't feel like I'm following the rules.
What rules? What are the rules of gay? Because we certainly don't know. So if you don't know,
I think
we look to you to be our gay North Star.
I think you're definitely a unique personality when it comes to relationships and what you desire. But yeah, I don't have suicidal thoughts anymore. There would be times in the past when I'd get real suicidal over like mundane things, like having to get my oil changed. But ever since I've been going to Terry's North Coast Auto,
I'm sure
they make it so easy.
I'm sure they love that segue.
I feel like it's too.
I think they'll appreciate it.
I feel like it's too scary now to say stuff like that. Like, I want to kill myself, because people will be like, "Are you actually going to?" Because I'm about to call somebody. Like, we will commit you. We're living in trying times right now.
But when you say suicidal thoughts, does that mean that you got to the point where you considered like ways to do it?
For me, I was on the edge of a building.
So you were like
I was getting ready to jump off a 4-story building.
That death wish into the void thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to walk off this building.
Yep.
And you didn't do it.
And I didn't do it.
And you're sitting right there, so I assume you didn't do it.
Yep.
All right.
But I was close.
Alan Cox Show After Hours line. You can always leave a message there if you like. It's 216-986-8903.
Hey, I'll run from Talmadge. I tried to leave this on the podcast talk back, but something weird happened with the app. I used to work for the Beacon Journal, and when they changed content management systems, the people who were laying out the paper messed up and did something I predicted would happen. We ended up running a newspaper from Kentucky's page in the middle of the A section. So all of us, some of the main stories that had jumps to the middle of the section just went nowhere and looked totally different. Later. Bye.
How am I going to find out what happened there at the Lexington Herald-Leader? Oh, no, it's right there on A18. I'm zipping my way through the Beacon Journal, and there's Kentucky stories in here. Come on, man. Or the Louisville Courier-Journal. I like how newspapers had long names. Some are really short, the Toledo Blade, the Chicago Tribune. And then there was like the Plain Dealer. I don't know what that is, but the Courier Journal. The Rural, the Herald Leader. Yeah. Well, listen.
I grew up with the Medina Gazette.
The Medina Gazette. Yeah. All right. What is a gazette?
Is
it just a?
Don't know.
Oh, just a publication of. Oh, it's just a journal or a newspaper. I watch the Gazette Gulch. That's where I get all my news. All right. I'm going to break. I'll have another $1,000 for you to grab. Another keyword at 3:30 to go fuel yourself. So be listening for that keyword. And after this break, you want to go see Gary Clark Jr. He's doing a show in September at MGM Northfield Park. I will have those for you on the other side of this. 35192. You want to text for anything else, and we'll be back.
It's the Alan Cox Show. Everywhere on our free iHeartRadio